Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title of today's video, today we are continuing the Friday the 13th franchise. Yes, we are. I have already covered the first 4 Friday the 13th films on my channel. I reacted to them, did commentaries for them, whatever you want to call it. Of course, since then, I've decided that I'm no longer doing reaction videos, but I didn't just want to completely stop covering this franchise when I've already covered the first 4. It just didn't feel right to not continue. So I have been working on a new format, a new way of covering these films that isn't just a video of me watching the movie and reacting to it, but instead is kind of a video essay, if you will, a different style of commentary that I'm actually really excited about. I will be breaking down the plot for y'all, giving a more in-depth perspective while also sprinkling in some trivia here and there, which I'm sure most of you guys will already know, because a lot of y'all are just like me. You grew up on these movies, you know your Friday the 13th trivia. But yeah, if all goes well, this will be the format for pretty much all of my videos going forward. But today, like I said, we are continuing the Friday the 13th franchise with Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning from 1985, directed by Danny Steinman, starring John Shepherd, Melanie Kinnaman, and Shabar Ross. So we've made it to the 5th installment of this franchise. This Friday film in particular is one that I remember actually scaring me a little bit growing up. I would rent it at Blockbuster a lot, and it was always on cable, and for whatever reason it always seemed slightly scarier than the other ones, which is funny because the kills in this one are kind of tame or lame, for lack of better words. We'll get into it. I also think it was because this film is weird. Even little 7-year-old me could sense that something was different with this one compared to the others. Characters are wackier and weirder. The kills are very oddly shot, and spoiler, Mr. Jason Voorhees is not the killer in this movie. I know this is a wild ride. I'm aware that this film is not often among people's favorite of the franchise. Part 4, the one before this one, is often regarded as being fans' favorite. Part 2 is superior. And while yes, this is not what you would call a good film or even a good sequel, it is still quite memorable for a variety of reasons. And honestly, I kind of like it. So let's dive right back in to the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, shall we? The film starts off with a pair of legs scurrying through the woods at night in the rain. Cut to a yellow raincoat, and this lad looks just like little Georgie from It. It's not Georgie, however, but it is in fact final boy Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman in a quick cameo, and he stands upon Jason Voorhees, who is buried in this really hilarious looking DIY grave. Before we find out what the hell Tommy's doing here, he runs away from the gravesite after hearing voices approach. The voices belong to Neil and Les, 2 teenage hooligans who've come to basically desecrate Jason's grave.
Rip this sucker open! Gotta get a look at the main man.
By the way, I'm only assuming that they're teenagers because this is some truly juvenile behavior, but I guess you don't have to be teenagers to be this stupid. Also, really quick, this is the first Friday sequel where we don't get the little recap montage, so there's that. Anyways, the 2 goons peer down at Jason's worm-infested mug until Jason whips out the machete, still in hand, I might add, gets one of the desecrators with a machete to the gut and then the other one with a machete to the throat before standing up out of his watery grave. Little Tommy is over there pissing his pants, frozen in fear and watching in horror as Jason slowly makes his way over to him, lifts his machete, and oh yeah, that was a dream sequence. Tommy's dream sequence to be exact. And now the character is a little older and played by a different actor. Then of course we get our typical Friday the 13th opening credits. This one features an exploding title card and a hockey mask with blue marks? That's different. Yeah, the opening credits are a bit bland, white text on a black screen, but you know what? I don't mind them because Harry Manfredini's score is going hard as freaking usual, and I love it. We arrive at Pinehurst, which is a halfway home that Tommy has just been transferred to from a psychiatric ward that he spent the last few years in. Pinehurst is run by Matt and his assistant Pam. Pam is also wearing some of the nicest high-waisted slacks I've ever seen, paired with the skinny belt and this cute pinstripe button-down shirt. She looks good. I love 80s fashion. There's also this sleazeball named Billy there who's dropping Tommy off. He's a nothing character, but he does show up later, so I just thought I'd mention him. He also does this.
Anytime, doll.
Pam introduces herself to a reluctant Tommy and takes him to meet Matt. She also asks him,
"You okay?"
No. Matt explains to Tommy that Pinehurst is a lot different than the state institution. There are no guards and nobody's gonna tell you what you can and can't do, and that you're basically preparing yourself to re-enter society and start a new life. After a brief introduction to Pinehurst, Pam gives Tommy directions to find his room, and after he leaves, they start discussing Tommy's past trauma.
Boy, they've given him every treatment, every therapy they can think of. It's a wonder his mind isn't fried with all the drugs they've given him.
Our boy Tommy has been through it the last few years. In his room, Tommy gazes at a photograph of his mother, who Jason killed in part 4, and his sister Trish, who survived the events of part 4 with Tommy. Cutie Gordon is there too. Tommy starts to unpack his things, and then we're introduced to one of the best characters in the entire film.
You scared of spiders? You scared of rubber spiders? You scared of rubber spiders on strings? Man, you are one scared cat.
This is Reggie the Reckless. Reggie explains to Tommy that he's not one of the kids at the halfway home. He's just simply there hanging around because his grandpa is the cook. After a brief interaction, sirens can be heard approaching, and Reggie splits.
Oh, gotta split. Catch you later, there's action.
Outside, there's some commotion happening, and Sheriff Tucker tells Matt that 2 of the halfway home kids were caught boinking on the neighbor's property. And then enter 2 of the most irritating characters I've ever seen in any film ever. Actually, irritating is an understatement. This is Ethel and her son Junior, the neighbors in question.
The next little bastard comes near my farm, I'm gonna blow your f***ing brains out. You hear me?
Ethel is clearly extremely upset at the horny teens that keep showing up on her property. She even threatens to murder the next one she finds on her property, which is funny because she clearly doesn't know what movie she's in, because if she did, she'd know she wouldn't have to worry about murdering any teens, that someone else has got that covered. Later, a dude named Vic is chopping some firewood while Robin and Violet are hanging some laundry. And then this dude named Joey, who I also cannot stand, comes over offering to help with the chores, but just ends up getting his dirty little hands over the clean laundry and ruining everything. They're understandably upset by this and tell him to get lost. He then wanders over to Vic and offers to help with the wood. Why he would even attempt to approach this scary-ass man holding an axe is beyond me, but clearly we're a few peas short of a casserole around here. Joey just simply cannot seem to quit provoking this axe-wielding man even after he does this.
Leave me alone!
Yikes. Joey proceeds to offer Vic a chocolate bar, but when Vic brings his axe down on the candy, breaking it in half, Joey says, "Well, if that's the way you feel, forget it, Vic. Just forget it. But I think you're really out of line." And then this happens. Yeah, I think this scene is another reason why this movie creeped me out so much. It was just so disturbing to me and honestly kind of traumatized me. It's so abrupt and random and absurd, like a lot of things in this movie. Anyways, it's a little later and Vic is sitting in the back of a police car looking not so remorseful. I don't blame him. While Sheriff Tucker asks Matt if there's anybody he should notify of Joey's death. Matt tells him, "As far as I know, there's no immediate family, Mother died while giving birth. I don't know what the hell happened to the father. Took off somewhere, I guess. The rest of the Pinehurst kids watch in horror as one of the paramedics, Duke, pulls back a sheet revealing Joey's hacked up body. Like, are you freaking serious? The second paramedic, however, Roy Burns, looks visibly shaken. Then Duke turns to him and says very insensitively, "Come on, Roy, get your hands dirty." Roy crouches down and looks ominously into the camera as it fades to black. In the middle of the night, Pete and Vinny, these two random-ass greaser dudes who I'm pretty sure are a couple, are broken down near Pinehurst. Pete grows impatient with Vinny, who is messing around under the hood, gets out of the car and orders, "Get this done by the time I get back. I gotta take a crap." Pete hears something following him as he walks through the woods, but turns around only to find it's a little bunny rabbit. Back at his car, as Vinny continues to work under the hood, he is startled by the sound and bright light of a person holding a lit road flare. He turns towards the noise, assuming it's Pete playing around, and says, "What are you doing, douchebag? Enough already, you can stop. Would you cut it out, Pete?" That's when the mysterious hand shoves the road flare down Vinny's throat in a very obvious innuendo, and the effect looks weird, but it is what it is. Pete returns from taking his dump in the woods, completely oblivious to Vinny's lifeless body just laying down under the hood of the car, and gets back into the driver's seat. And this is when we get this riveting moment.
Come on now. Come on, everybody. Same starting. What you doing up there, Vinny? Rudy, 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 Rudy. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tooey.
Yeah, it's very clear that this actor, I guess, just had to improvise, and the choices he made, I'm not mad at it. It's honestly the weird little moments like this that are so out of place and awkward that make this film so enjoyable and memorable for me, and just freaking insane. Like, this movie is insane. Unfortunately for Pete, as soon as he's able to get the car started, his little scat sesh comes to an end when a machete comes from the back seat and slits his throat in a weird shot in which the camera zooms in, cropping out the actual throat slice, showing the audience, well, pretty much nothing. Thanks, MPAA. Back at Pinehurst, a very sweaty Tommy Jarvis lays in bed, haunted by voices and flashbacks from the night when he killed Jason all those years ago. And yeah, just in case anyone forgot, Tommy actually killed Jason in the last movie. Like, he actually did die. Tommy killed him. Yeah. But Tommy just can't get the voices to stop, and it's so sad to see. Poor guy even has hallucinations of Jason, which, yeah, that's honestly pretty terrifying. Down at breakfast, Reggie asks Gramps if he can go see his brother tomorrow since he'll be coming to town. Gramps, who is the most adorable older gentleman, says, "We'll see. You know how I feel about that." After Reggie pouts about this, Gramps comes over to hug him in this super adorable interaction.
Do me a favor. Don't kiss me when there's people around, okay?
Oh. Okay, that's cool.
Gramps then tells Reggie to go let everyone know that breakfast is ready.
Yo, breakfast! Come and get it!
I could have done that.
Just moments into breakfast, Tina turns to Violet and says, "She set too many places at the table." "No, I didn't," Violet replies. "I don't think Victor and Joey will be joining us for breakfast this morning," Gramps quietly chimes in. Violet apologizes, and this dude named Jake stutters, "You don't set a place for a dead person." "I said I was sorry," Violet shouts. That's when Matt shows up to settle everyone down. Just as everyone begins eating breakfast, Tommy walks in and stands there awkwardly. Matt notices and asks Tommy if he could go get Eddie, Tina's boyfriend, and bring him down for breakfast. Tommy reluctantly agrees to, and as he turns back towards the door, Pam kind of looks at Tommy with me eyes, which I don't blame you, girl, but also isn't Tommy supposed to be like 17, even though he looks 30? Anyways, just then Eddie shows up, jump scaring Tommy while wearing one of his masks and making some people at the table laugh. "Relax, Chief, what's wrong? No sense of humor? Can't you take a joke?" Deserved. Meanwhile, Ethel is chopping up a chicken while Junior disgustingly eats, if you can call it that, some stew. That's when Ethel hears a sound and finds a dirty man named Raymond standing there on her doorstep. "I haven't eaten in 2 days and I'd like to earn a meal," the man says. Ethel tells him to clean out the manure in the chicken coop and dump it behind the shed, and then she'll give him something to eat. He agrees and leaves. Ethel tells Junior that is one ugly man that goes there. "That's one ugly man, Mama," Junior replies. "Would you shut your trap? You ain't so pretty yourself, you know." "I ain't so pretty myself, I know." Yeah, they could have cut that out. That whole interaction. That whole scene. The bodies of Pete and Vinny are found by the police later, and a bewildered Sheriff Tucker just doesn't know what to make of it. And then the film proceeds to make the paramedic, Roy Burns, look increasingly weird and suspicious.
What the hell's going on here? You talking to me, Sheriff? Huh? I thought you was talking to me.
No, Roy, it's okay. Go ahead. Get them out of here.
"Looks like we got a maniac on the loose, Sheriff," Deputy Dodd says. Immediately cuts back to Roy and his suspicious-looking ass. Elsewhere, at a local diner, this dude named Billy from earlier, who we saw dropping Tommy off at Pinehurst and being a total creep, is shouting for this waitress Lana to hurry up so they can go out on a date. This is another example of just this movie's pure randomness and bizarre performances, but I will say I do get a kick out of this line.
Well, what would you like?
I would like Lana to go with nothing on.
Lana tells Billy she's down, but to give her a few more minutes to finish up inside. Meanwhile, back in the car, Billy is doing hard drugs, which I will not show, and making other strange choices. Lana is finishing up inside, touching up her makeup and saying to her reflection, "Girl, you are so hot." I honestly love her confidence. Couldn't be me. Billy, coked out of his mind, grows impatient in the car and starts honking and screaming Lana's name again. That's when we see a pair of hands whack an axe to the back of Billy's head, followed up by a goofy-ass zoom-in on his eyes as he dies. Lana leaves the restaurant and gets into Billy's empty car, yelling out for him but receiving no answer. She notices Coke on the floor and says, "You're going to waste a lot of money this way, smarty. Oh well, this means more for me." That's when she sees a person's feet standing right outside the door, holding a bloody axe. She yells for Billy as she struggles to exit the car, and after finally getting out, she is immediately axed to the gut and falls dramatically to the ground. Back at Pinehurst, Tommy is staring out of the window in his room at some chickens and Tina and Eddie running around playfully, and then... yeah, our boy Tommy sees Jason in a very blatant Halloween, I'll be nice and won't say rip off, but homage. But yeah, Tommy is full on H2O Laurie Strode, seeing Jason around every corner, out of every window, just haunted, completely haunted. Cut back to Tina and Eddie playing around. They make their way out deep in the woods somewhere to do what the teens in these movies do best: do drugs and fuck in the woods. Duh. But someone is spying on them. Cut to Raymond, the dirty man from earlier who showed up on Ethel's doorstep willing to work for some food. He's peeping on these teens getting it on when he suddenly turns and gets stabbed in the side of his stomach with a knife. Yeah, he was completely freaking useless. Eddie tells Tina he needs to go wash up because I guess they're done already, leaving Tina by herself out in these spooky woods. Yeah, so this is where the camera proceeds to just linger on her naked body for a while. It does end up making sense when you find out the director of this film, Danny Steinman, also directed a porn. He also directed this exploitation flick with Linda Blair called Savage Streets that I do really enjoy. But yeah, this Friday film definitely feels a lot sleazier than the rest, which that's saying a lot. Also, the actress that plays Tina is named Deborah Voorhees. Like, her actual last name is Voorhees. That is so freaking cool. Tina continues to lay out while waiting for Eddie to come back, and everything seems pretty peaceful until she opens her eyes and screams at the top of her lungs as a pair of hands holding garden shears stab down into her eyes in an off-screen kill. When Eddie finally comes back, he sees Tina and thinks she's sleeping until he turns her body over and sees her eyes completely stabbed out. He then backs into a tree when a belt is thrown around the tree and across his face. It's then tightened and twisted with a stick, crushing Eddie's eyes into his skull to the point where it snaps. That had to hurt. Back at Pinehurst, Matt is upset about Tina and Eddie not showing back up. As Pam is about to leave with Reggie to meet up with his brother, she reassures Matt that they're bound to come back soon. Matt suggests that Tommy go along with them, and Pam agrees that it would be good for him. So Pam, Reggie, and Tommy get in this cute little blue truck and take off. When they make it to Reggie's brother's place, Tommy insists that he wait back at the truck while Pam and Reggie go ahead. This is where we meet Reggie's brother Demon and girlfriend Anita, who I guess quite literally live in a van down by the river. Demon is played by Miguel A. Nunez Jr., and he is hands down my favorite side character from this film. Everything down to his hair, his clothes, his mannerisms, his dialogue, I live for it every time I watch this movie. Yet again, another example of this movie just having the most eccentric characters of the whole franchise.
You want a taco? Egg roll? What about a slice of pizza?
Thank you.
Cheese and sausage?
Nearby, Tommy wanders off and stares into the lights of this trailer park sign, which starts to trigger memories. We then hear the sound of a motorcycle approaching quickly. And guess who it is? My favorite character, yay! Junior starts laughing at Tommy for getting startled. What are you, dumb or something? He mocks in his face. God, I hate this fucking guy. He then recognizes the blue truck as belonging to Pinehurst. You're crazy from the loony bin. My mama's gonna chop you up into itty bitty pieces, my friend. You hear me? I said, are you hearing me? And yeah, Tommy is not only definitely hearing him, he also reminds the audience that he can whoop some ass. That was honestly so freaking satisfying. I mean, I hate both Junior and Ethel. I think that they are probably the worst characters of the entire franchise, and that's saying a lot. Maybe not the worst, but definitely among the worst. Junior is just... I'm not gonna say anything, actually. Pam hears the fight and shouts Tommy's name, prompting Tommy to stop beating up Junior. Tommy then runs away in distress, and Pam tells Reggie that they have to go now. After watching their truck drive away, Demon tells Anita, I miss him already. Yeah, he's a cutie pie, she responds. Wanna hit this? That's when Demon grunts and clutches his stomach. What's wrong? Anita asks.
It's them damn enchiladas! Oh.
I can't believe I finally get to talk about the enchilada scene on the internet. I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life. This entire sequence has lived rent-free in my head for more than 25 years. So yeah, Demon is exercising his demons on the toilet in this outhouse. Thankfully, we don't get to hear it or see it. That's when suddenly the outhouse begins to shake. Demon yells at whoever it is to stop it, and it turns out to just be Anita from the outside playing around. You're gonna get it, bitch, Demon yells. And then, if you know, you know, the best part of this entire movie happens. So let's just sit back, relax, and enjoy this classic ballad and one of the most romantic scenes to ever be put on film.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Demon notices that Anita goes quiet and calls out to her. Just then, the walls of the outhouse start to shake violently again. Okay, I told you this isn't funny. Now you're gonna get it, bitch. He pulls up his pants, I guess without wiping, and attempts to open the door. However, something is preventing it from opening. Demon looks down and sees Anita's dead body laying on the ground, her throat having been split open. She also has a very visible pulse too, which is kind of hilarious. Demon screams and backs into the outhouse when a spear comes through the side, getting him in the leg. Ouch. Crying and screaming in pain, the spear comes through once again, this time stabbing Demon right through the back, killing him. Pam and Reggie arrive back at Pinehurst and are informed by the remaining kids that Matt left to go look for Tina and Eddie. Gramps is also missing and Tommy is still nowhere to be found. Pam tells everyone to go back inside while she goes out by herself looking for everyone. Nearby, Junior is having a fit, yelling out to his mama that he just got his ass whooped by Tommy, while Ethel is inside spitting in his dinner. Junior's screams continue to the point where I want to just completely mute the film because I can't take it anymore. That's when a hand holding a cleaver pops into frame and Junior's severed head goes tumbling onto the ground, thank God. And pretty much immediately after this, the same hand bursts through the window inside and kills Ethel with the same cleaver, her hand squeezing a tomato and her head going right into a pot of stew. And just like that, the two most insufferable characters are dead. Hallelujah. Elsewhere, Pam's truck dies on her, forcing her to continue the search for Tommy on foot in another really cute outfit. She's killing it. Back at Pinehurst, Robin and Jake sit on the couch watching a movie. He then proceeds to very awkwardly make a move on her, to which she responds in the worst way possible, which is to just straight up laugh at him. He storms off upstairs in tears and walks into Violet's room seeking solace, but Violet doesn't want anything to do with him either. As he turns to walk back down the hallway, he's met with, yet again, a hand holding up a cleaver as it comes down off screen in the film's most disappointing kill so far. Robin finishes her movie, goes upstairs to her room, and gets topless because it's a Friday the 13th movie and we need more nudity. She crawls into bed where she finds Jake's corpse, and as she attempts to run, a hand from underneath the bed grabs her. That's when a machete comes up and stabs her through the bed, a very familiar type of kill in this franchise. Meanwhile, Violet is in her room doing this. She's so me. So engrossed in her music, she doesn't hear her door opening or the man stepping into her room or the footsteps as the machete-wielding person inches closer and closer. She finally turns around, but it's too late as she is grabbed and pinned up against the wall and stabbed in the stomach, and that is so obviously a pillow, it's not even funny. With Jake, Robin, and Violet dead, that leaves only little Reggie all alone in the house. Reggie wakes up from a nap on the couch and heads upstairs, knocking on Tommy's door asking if he's back yet. When he receives no answer, he opens the door anyways, just as a big flash of lightning illuminates the room to reveal the dead bodies of Jake, Robin, and Violet. Frightened, Reggie slowly backs away from the room when Pam comes up behind him. She asks him several times what's wrong, and Reggie can only choke up the words, "In Tommy's room." Pam goes inside the room, and we hear her let out a scream. She slowly backs out of the room and turns to Reggie and grabs him by the arm, the both of them hurrying down the stairs because we're officially in the final act chase scene. Hell yeah, baby. Reggie trips and falls to the ground, just as Jason busts through the door holding a bloody machete. And you know, just for the sake of this video, I am going to be calling him Jason for the next few minutes, even though, you know, it just makes more sense to call him Jason at this point and not you know who. Pam and Reggie go running out into the stormy, dark woods, eventually running into an ambulance stopped in the street. They run over to it, screaming for help, and when Pam goes to open the door, the dead body of Duke, that really insensitive paramedic from earlier, falls out with an apparent throat slit. That's when Jason pops up from the other side of the vehicle, and Reggie lets out one of the best screams I've ever heard. He turns around and straight up leaves Pam's ass, sprinting through the woods as fast as he can with Pam trying to keep up. Not only does she eventually lose him, she also stumbles upon the dead body of Matt against a tree, his throat cut and a spike stabbed through his forehead. She continues running and screaming through the woods, eventually making it back to Pinehurst. She slowly makes her way through the room, her white shirt conveniently soaked through, when a body is thrown violently through the window. An up-close shot revealing it to be Gramps with both of his eyes gouged out. This sends Pam back out into the pouring rain with Jason right on her tail again. I just want to say one thing I really do enjoy about the Friday the 13th films is the final chase scene. There's always a final chase scene. Usually it's just between our final girl and Jason, or Mrs. Voorhees if we're talking about the first one. Obviously this one, it's Pam and Reggie for a bit. Part 4 was Tommy and Trish. But you know, love or hate these films, the final chase scenes, in my opinion, they always hit. And this one is no different, in my opinion. The discovering all the dead bodies, running in the woods, screaming, the music, it's just so good. I really love chase scenes in horror films. But yeah, just wanted to point out that I think that's one of the things that the Friday the 13th films do really well. Anyways, just wanted to say that really quickly. After slipping and falling in the rain, Pam crawls her way through the mud as Jason finally catches up with her. She lays there paralyzed with fear, screaming at the top of her lungs as Jason holds up his machete, when Reggie bursts in, driving a tractor like the little badass he is, distracting Jason and allowing Pam to crawl away. He rams the shit out of Jason, sending him through the air and onto the ground. Pam and Reggie reunite and slowly approach the unconscious Jason laying on the ground. But of course they get too close, and of course Jason is still alive, and he grabs Reggie's leg until Pam has to give him 2 good swift kicks to the mask. He lets Reggie go and they both run into a nearby barn. Jason, who is very obviously hurt from getting hit with the tractor, slowly walks through the rain to the barn for one final showdown. Jason eerily walks around the barn for a moment, very reminiscent to the final scene from part 3 in my opinion, when suddenly Pam emerges with a chainsaw, which results in a chainsaw machete fight. She slashes Jason real good in the chest, but unfortunately the chainsaw runs out of gas. She unsuccessfully tries to get it started again, resulting in her having to just chuck the chainsaw right at Jason so she can run away. Then, in a flash of lightning, Tommy appears at the entrance of the barn. Reggie shouts out Tommy's name, resulting in Jason turning to face the troubled teen. Tommy then just kind of stands there, frozen again, repeating Jason's name as Pam and Reggie yell from above for him to run. And yeah, not really sure what Tommy was attempting to achieve there, but Jason approaches him and slashes him across the chest because, of course. This snaps Tommy out of it and he pulls out a pocket knife and stabs Jason in the leg. He's able to make it to the loft of the barn with Pam and Reggie, but Jason is right on his tail. And once he catches up with him, Tommy just kind of passes out, I guess. Pam whacks Jason from behind as he approaches Reggie, and the two get into a little tussle right at the edge of an open window. That's when Reggie leaps down and pushes Jason off the edge, but the masked killer is holding on to the side of the barn. He grabs Reggie's ankle and attempts to pull him off. That's when Tommy appears with the machete, chopping at Jason's hand. This sends the killer falling backwards right onto a bed of spikes. Ouch. After a shot of the hockey mask laying in a puddle of rain, we finally see the man behind the mask, and of course, it's Roy Burns, the suspicious paramedic from earlier.
I thought you was talking to me.
We get our wrap-up scene at the hospital with Sheriff Tucker explaining to Pam that Roy Burns was actually the father of Joey, the kid who was axed to death at Pinehurst by that dude Vic earlier. Apparently, Roy had kept this fact a secret, but when he arrived at the scene and saw Joey's body hacked to pieces, it set him off, and using Jason's MO as a cover-up, he went on a killing spree. And yeah, the film never shows us this, but I can only imagine that Roy killed Vic at some point, seeing as he was the one who actually murdered his son, and not all of these other innocent people. But yeah, the film doesn't really show us what happens to Vic. It doesn't really matter, but just wanted to point that out. Pam walks down the hallway to visit Tommy, who is laying in a hospital bed. After whispering his name, his eyes open and he turns to look at her. They exchange some sweet smiles and then... Yeah, Tommy's clearly not okay. The traumatic dreams are evidence of that. He closes his eyes again for a moment, and after slowly opening them once again, they open wide, and he lets out a quiet gasp as we see the real Jason standing in front of the hospital bed. His apparition fades after a few moments, and with a sinister look on his face, Tommy pulls out his IV, stands up, opens the drawer in his bedside table to find a hockey mask with blue marks on it. Roy's hockey mask. He picks it up and stares at it, but then the sound of footsteps are approaching. Cut to Pam slowly walking down the hallway once again, arriving at Tommy's door. She pauses there, but then hears a loud crashing sound, rushing into the room to find Tommy's hospital bed empty and the window broken open. Pam stands there in shock as we see the door shut behind her, as Tommy appears wearing the hockey mask and holding up a knife in the film's final shot. Just gonna put this right here. I should have put that there earlier, but I forgot, so we're putting the VHS back there now for the final part of this video. So obviously I rewatched this recently so that I could have a more recent and refreshed perspective on the film when I sat down to work on this video. And also I obviously know this is one of the more controversial Friday the 13th films. The reasons I most hear for that being its tone, and then of course the fact that it doesn't actually have Jason. And those critiques are totally fair, totally valid. But you know, after rewatching it this last time, I can honestly say that for me, this isn't even anywhere near the bottom for me in terms of the ranking of the Friday the 13th films. Not to spoil my inevitable ranking video. But yeah, let's just discuss the big ol' elephant in the room. The whole copycat killer thing. This film does have the whole Halloween 3 Season of the Witch type thing going for it, in that the franchise's main killer isn't actually in the film. Even though the real Jason does appear in this film through hallucinations, dreams, and I also do believe that A New Beginning doesn't stray far from the roots of what its franchise is, like Halloween Season of the Witch does. So that may not be a fair comparison, but it is, up until this point, the odd one out of the franchise. It's a whodunit. Not a very good one, but whodunit nonetheless. And if it's 1985 and you had followed the franchise up until this point, you saw the final chapter, you remember that Tommy actually killed Jason, you go to see this movie in the theater, what are you thinking exactly when you're watching this? Well, the guy's dead. They killed him in the last movie. Like, what's going on here? And then at the end, it's revealed to be a copycat. It's not Jason Voorhees, but in fact a father who is avenging his son's death, a son whose life he wasn't even a part of. If you really wanted to, you could maybe find some parallels between Roy and Pamela Voorhees, but it's definitely weird, it's definitely a stretch, and it's definitely messy. And I don't blame people for not liking it. Also, by the way, if you were around in 85 and you saw this in the theater when it came out, what were your thoughts? Were you disappointed in the reveal? Did you kind of like it anyway? What was your initial response? And then what do you think about the film now? I'm really curious. So now let's discuss Tommy Jarvis. So this is the second film in the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, parts 4, 5, and 6, that feature Tommy as the main protagonist. John Shepherd is the second actor out of 3 to portray the character, and if I'm being completely honest, you know, when fans bring up the character Tommy Jarvis, it's usually Corey Feldman's portrayal, or Tom Matthews from part 6 portrayal, that is discussed or praised. But I do want to give John Shepherd the praise that I think he deserves. This film does a lot of messy things with the character of Tommy, especially by the end of the film. He kind of disappears altogether at some point and then reappears because I think, you know, the movie tries to set him up as being the killer, and then whatever the hell that was supposed to be at the very end, a dream. Despite all that, I think John Shepherd's portrayal of this character is actually super underrated. He apparently took the role very seriously, even spending a few months volunteering at a state mental hospital to mentally prepare for the role. And although he may not be as charming or endearing or likable as Feldman or Matthews, he's definitely a lot more rough around the edges. I really do appreciate his intensity, and I think his portrayal of this truly traumatized, haunted young man is pretty damn good. And he can kick some ass, that's for damn sure. And okay, while we're on the subject of characters, this film hands down has some of the most memorable, diverse characters of the whole franchise. Just so many weird, random, charming, hilarious characters like the Greasers, Billy and Lana, Vic, Demon, and y'all know I can't stand Ethel and Junior, but apparently a lot of folks love them. They're a fan favorite. They're definitely not boring, I'll give them that. Violet, Gramps. I even left out a scene with the mayor of the town. There's a scene where the sheriff is talking to the mayor. I left it out because it wasn't that important, but the mayor is like kind of wacky too. There's just so many characters in the film, and this film definitely has a tone. It's low-key, or high-key actually, a horror comedy. A lot of the lines were apparently improvised, resulting in just weird performances and so many bizarre, unforgettable moments. Also, this video wouldn't be a complete or proper video essay if I didn't talk about the kills. Unfortunately, as you know, a lot of the Friday films fell victim to the MPAA and the numerous cuts that had to be made, not just with the kill scenes, but with the sex scenes. And yeah, this resulted in just a lot of very awkward looking cuts during kills and weird zoom-ins that look funny. If you ask me though, I think it adds to just the film's overall weirdness. So I'm not actually super mad at the kills being really edited. Some just downright suck, like Raymond's kill, Ethel's kill, Jake's kill, Violet's kill, which originally was a lot more graphic. There's still some really good kills in here, I think. Personally, I love both Tina and Eddie's death, with Tina getting the shears to the eyes. It is an off-screen kill technically, but I like how it's shot at least, and we see the aftermath later, which is cool. And Eddie's death with the belt around the eyes and the eyes getting squeezed, I just think is very cool and unique kill. Also, shout out to Vic killing Joey because that traumatized the hell out of me as a kid. So yeah, like most of the films in this franchise, we get kind of a mix of mediocre kills with some really cool ones thrown in there. And overall, I'm just not too upset with that. But yes, as we come to the conclusion of our little Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning retrospective, I just feel I really need to say this because I often hear this from fans. Basically that this isn't a Friday the 13th movie. It doesn't have Jason in it, so it's not a Friday the 13th film. Kind of going back to that Halloween Season of the Witch comparison. And to that, I have to say I wholeheartedly disagree. And the reason I disagree with this is simply this film, despite not having Jason as the killer, at its core, its essence, it still feels like a Friday the 13th film. It still follows the familiar formula that us Friday fans are used to and what we watch these movies for to begin with anyway, which I can't say for some of the later installments. It has a hockey masked killer walking around killing teens. It's got that badass Harry Manfredini score. It's got a lot of tits. It's got a lot of memorable characters. It's got a lot of dark humor. It's got some of the most iconic sequences. It's got a very entertaining final chase scene. And it's easily the sleaziest, most absurd entry in the entire franchise. Like, this thing is dripping in sleaze, and maybe I'm finally at a point where I can respect it for the sleaze core classic that it is. And I had a hell of a time revisiting it. Let me know your guys' thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. And also just let me know what you think about this style of video, this style of editing. This was the most excited I've been in a while to film a video, I must say. The plan is to cover the rest of the Friday the 13th franchise in this style of format, as well as other horror films, other cult films. Well, okay, now that I think about it, maybe I won't cover the entire Friday the 13th franchise, just because I literally hate everything after Jason Takes Manhattan, and the thought of having to cover like Jason Goes to Hell, ugh. And then the remake, ugh. Yeah, I don't know if I want to put myself through that. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready, but I'll definitely cover up to Jason Takes Manhattan. But after Manhattan, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We're definitely in the sweet spot of the Friday the 13th franchise right now, the cozy middle of it all. But yeah, please leave any feedback or recommendations in the comments below. Let's chat about Friday the 13th Part 5. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.